The first snow of December always makes my street look like a postcard. White roofs, yellow porch lights, that quiet kind of peace that only comes once a year. But that night, my phone buzzed, and Christmas stopped feeling like Christmas. It was a message from my daughter, Alina. Dad, we need space this year. Please don't come to Christmas. I stare at the screen so long my eyes started to sting. I reread it 3 times, like the words might change if I looked hard enough. Space? From me? I'm her father. I'm the man who stayed up through her fevers, worked double shifts when her mother got sick, and sat in the front row of every school play even when I was so tired I could barely blink. My hands went cold. My chest felt tight, like someone had tied a rope around it and started pulling. I typed back fast, too fast. What happened? Did I do something? The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, her reply came. It's not a big deal. We just want a quiet holiday. Jason thinks it's better. Jason, her husband. That name hit me like a door slamming shut. Because the truth is, Jason never liked me. Not really. He smiled, shook my hand, called me sir with perfect manners. But his eyes always said something else. Like I was a problem he was waiting to solve. I tried to call her. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. Then I checked her social media. Nothing unusual. Christmas decorations. A photo of her tree. A caption that said, "New traditions, new peace." New peace. Which meant old people were being pushed out. I sat there on my couch, the TV talking to nobody, the house too quiet, the air smelling like the pine candles she used to love as a kid. And then my mind did what it always does when I'm hurt. It went digging. Because Alina didn't talk like that. Not to me. Not ever. So I started asking myself the question that can ruin a man's sleep. Who put those words in her mouth? My eyes fell on the small cardboard box under my coffee table. Inside were the gifts I had already bought. A little winter coat for my grandson, Murad. A necklace for Alina. Simple, silver, the kind she used to point at in shop windows when she was younger. And a thick envelope with the check I planned to give them. Because Jason had been between opportunities again. I stared at that envelope for a long time. And that's when another thought crawled into my head, slow and sharp. If they want space, what they really want is distance. And distance is how people forget you. But what they didn't know was, I've been forgotten before. And I learned something the hard way. When people decide you don't matter, you don't beg them to remember. You show them what life looks like without you. So I picked up my phone again, not to call Alina, but to call someone who knew the truth behind that house. Because I had a feeling this Christmas wasn't going to be quiet at all. And if I was right, somebody was going to regret pushing me. My name is Cameron. I'm not a rich man, but I'm not helpless either. I built my life the slow way, brick by brick. When Alina was 9, her mother got sick. The kind of sickness that doesn't just touch the body. It changes the whole house. Hospitals became normal. Bills became normal. Fear became normal. And then one day, her mother didn't come home. After the funeral, people told me the same thing over and over. She needs you now. As if I didn't already know. I stopped thinking about myself. I stopped having dreams that didn't include my child. I became the kind of father who packs lunches at 5 a.m., who learns how to braid hair from shaky YouTube videos, who sits outside the bathroom door when his daughter cries because she misses her mom. And when she grew up, I did what I thought fathers were supposed to do. I stayed close, not suffocating close, not controlling close, just present. When she met Jason, I tried to be fair. I really did. Jason had that clean look, that confident voice. He talked big, always had plans, always had excuses when those plans didn't work. At the wedding, he toasted Alina like she was his prize, like she was something he won. And when he hugged me, he whispered, "Don't worry, I'll take it from here." Back then, I thought he meant he'd take care of her. Now I realize he meant something else. Because little things started changing after they got married. Alina stopped dropping by without texting first. Phone calls got shorter. Her laughter sounded careful. And every time I offered help, Jason said. "We've got it." But they didn't have it. Not really. Not when their rent was late. Not when their car needed repairs. Not when Jason suddenly needed money for a business idea. And somehow, every time they didn't have it, I was the one who filled the gap. I gave them money quietly. No lectures. No shame. Because that's what you do when you love someone. Then Murad was born, and for a while, everything softened. Alina's face glowed in that new mom way. I held my grandson and felt something warm return to my chest. I thought, this is it. This is our family now. But Jason didn't soften. He tightened. He started acting like he was the gatekeeper between me and my daughter, like I had to earn time with my own blood. And I told myself, be patient, Cameron. Don't cause problems. I swallowed small insults. I ignored the way Jason rolled his eyes when I talked about Alina's mother. I brushed off his little jokes about me being old-fashioned. I did all that because I thought peace was worth it. But that text message, "We need space," that wasn't peace. That was exile. So I called the one person who still lived close enough to see what was really happening. Alina's neighbor, a kind older woman named Nigger, who used to wave at me every time I visited. She picked up on the second ring. "Cameron, is everything okay?" I hesitated. My pride tried to stop me. But my heart was already bleeding. So what was pride going to protect? I said, "Nigger Zainim, did something happen over there? Alina told me not to come for Christmas." There was a pause. A heavy one. Then she whispered, "Oh, so they finally said it out loud." My stomach dropped. Finally, I repeated. And that's when she said the words that changed everything. "Cameron, I think your daughter believes you did something you didn't do." My whole body went still, because if that was true, then this wasn't just rejection. It was betrayal. And I needed to know who was holding the knife. Nigger didn't like getting involved. You could hear it in her voice, like she was afraid of stepping into a storm. But she cared about Alina, and she cared about Murad. So she told me what she'd seen. "I don't want to gossip," she said, "but I've heard arguments through the walls. Jason talks loud when he's angry." My throat tightened. "About me?" "Yes," she admitted. "Your name comes up. A lot." I pressed my fingers against my forehead, try to keep my mind from spinning. "What does he say?" Nigger exhaled. "He says you're controlling, that you make Alina feel guilty, that you use money to keep her close." My eyes burned. That didn't even sound like my daughter's world. It sounded like Jason's script. Nigger continued, softer now. "And last week, I heard Alina crying. She kept saying, 'But he's my father. He would never,' and Jason kept saying, 'He did, Alina.'" "He did. You just don't want to see it." My heart started pounding. "Did what?" I asked, my voice coming out rough. Another pause. Then Nigger said, "There was something about a savings account. Money missing. Jason was saying you took it." For a second, I couldn't breathe, because I knew exactly what account she meant. When Alina got married, I set up a small account for her. A safety net. Not huge, but enough to help if life hit hard. Alina knew about it. Jason knew about it too. A few months ago, Jason asked if they could borrow from it. I said no. I told him that money wasn't for business ideas. It was for emergencies. He smiled and said, "Of course, I understand." But now, he was saying money was missing, and he was pointing at me. My hands shook as I opened my laptop. I logged into my banking app, heart racing, eyes scanning like a desperate man. The account was still there. And yes, money had moved, but it wasn't stolen. It had been transferred out in 3 separate transactions, each one labeled with a familiar name, Jason's name. I stared at the screen, frozen. Then I clicked deeper. The transfers had been authorized with Alina's login credentials, meaning either she did it or someone used her access. I felt sick. Jason didn't just want me out of Christmas. He wanted me out of Alina's life. And he had found the perfect way. He didn't attack me directly. He attacked my character. He made my daughter doubt the one person who never left her. And the worst part? It was working. I wanted to call Alina and scream, "He's lying." But I didn't, because I knew something about manipulation. When someone is inside it, they don't hear truth as truth. They hear it as noise. They hear it as pressure. They hear it as proof that the manipulator was right. So instead, I sat back and asked myself a different question. Not, how do I prove I'm innocent? But, how do I make her see it with her own eyes? That's when I remembered something Jason didn't know about me. I may be old-fashioned, but I'm not careless. Every payment I made for them, every transfer, every favor, I kept records. Not because I didn't trust my daughter, but because life taught me that trust without proof can turn into a weapon. And now, proof was exactly what I needed. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started building a file. Screenshots, bank statements, dates, messages, every detail. Because if Jason wanted to paint me as the villain, then I was going to show everyone the real story. But I wasn't going to do it in anger. I was going to do it in a way that would hit harder, in a way that would leave regret sitting in their living room like an uninvited guest. And the first step was to stop being their safety net. So I took that envelope with a Christmas check, and I tore it in half. Then I whispered into the empty room, "Okay, you want space? You're going to feel it." The next few days felt unreal. I woke up and reached my phone like always, expecting Alina's name to pop up. A message, a call, anything, nothing. I drove past the store where we used to buy our tree when she was little, and my chest tightened. I saw families carrying gifts, laughing, rushing to the cold like the world was full of joy. And I felt like I was standing outside a window, watching a life that used to be mine. I tried once more. I texted Alina, "I miss you. Can we talk?" She replied hours later, "Please respect our decision." Respect. Like I was a stranger crossing a boundary. Like I hadn't spent years respecting every part of her life. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened an old photo album. There was Alina at 6, wearing a red scarf, holding my hand so tightly my fingers looked pale. There was her graduation, her smile wide, her eyes searching the crowd until she found me. There was her wedding day, her face glowing, my suit too tight, my eyes full of pride. And now she was uninviting me from Christmas. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. Because if Alina truly believed I stole from her, why didn't she ask me? Why didn't she confront me? Why didn't she yell? Alina was never the quiet type when she was hurt. So the silence meant something else. It meant she was scared, or confused, or being controlled. And that thought made my anger burn hotter. I called nigger again. She lowered her voice. "Cameron, there's more." My stomach twisted. "What?" She hesitated. "Jason's mother is there. She arrived early." Of course she did. His mother, Sevda, treated Alina like an employee, not a daughter-in-law. Always correcting her. Always commenting on the way she cooked, cleaned, dressed Murad. And Jason always backed his mother. Like Alina's feelings were just an inconvenience. Nigger continued. "I saw Sevda carrying a big bag into their house yesterday. She was saying something like, 'We'll handle it. No more outside people.' Outside people. That's what they were calling me now." I thanked Nigger and hung up. Then I stood in my living room and looked at my own Christmas tree. Small, simple, a few ornaments. One ornament stood out, a handmade paper star Alina made in school after her mother passed. She wrote on it in messy handwriting, "Dad is my hero." I held that star in my palm and felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about Christmas dinner. This was about my daughter's life. If Jason could convince her to cut me off, what else could he convince her of? What else could he take from her? That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg my way back into that house. I was going to open her eyes. But I needed the right moment. A moment big enough that she couldn't ignore it. And I realized something. Jason had chosen Christmas because it was emotional, because it would hurt, because pain makes people weak. But the thing about pain is, it can also make you clear. So I started planning. Quietly, carefully. I printed everything. I made copies. I even wrote a letter, 1 page at first, then 2, then 5. Not angry, not dramatic, just honest. Because if Alina was trapped in someone else's story, I was going to hand her the truth like a key. And then I thought of the one thing Jason would never expect. I wasn't going to show up at their Christmas. I was going to create my own and make it impossible for Alina to pretend I didn't exist. So I called an old friend who ran a small community center, and I asked him a simple question. Do you have room for a Christmas event? He laughed. Cameron, why? I stared at Alina's paper star and said, because this year I'm not celebrating in silence. And deep down I knew, when the truth finally came out, people think revenge has to be loud. Shouting, threats, breaking things. But the strongest revenge? It's calm. It's controlled. It's letting someone realize what they lost after it's already gone. I didn't want to ruin Alina. I wanted to save her. But I did want Jason to feel consequences. Real ones. So I built my plan with 2 goals. Protect my daughter and grandson. Expose the lie without looking like the enemy. The community center director, my friend Ralph, agreed to let me host a small Christmas gathering. Nothing fancy. Just food, music, and warmth. But I had a bigger idea. I decided to turn my heartbreak into something that would echo. I put up a simple post online. If you're alone this Christmas, come eat with us. No one should sit in silence. I expected maybe a few people. Instead, dozens responded. Single parents, elderly neighbors, a young man who said he'd lost his job and couldn't afford gifts. I spent the next week cooking, organizing, wrapping donated toys, and setting up chairs. Every time my chest tightened with sadness, I moved my hands faster, because staying busy kept me from falling apart. But behind the scenes, I was doing something else. I was preparing the truth. I wrote a timeline. The day Jason asked for money. The day I said no. The day the account transfers happened. The dates Alina suddenly became distant. The messages where Jason politely asked for help while quietly building the story that I was controlling. It was all there. And then I did one more thing. I went to the bank and asked for a full printed history of the account. The teller looked at me kindly. Everything okay? I swallowed hard. I just need it. When I got home, I laid the papers out on my table like evidence in a courtroom, because that's what it felt like my love was on trial. And the man accusing me was sitting beside my daughter, whispering lies into her ear. Now, here's the part that took real strength. I didn't message Alina with the evidence. Not yet. Instead, I sent her something else. A small package. Inside, the silver necklace I bought her and a short note. This is yours. No conditions. No pressure. I love you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. That was it. No accusations. No arguments. Because I wanted Alina to feel the difference. Jason's love came with control. Mine didn't. Then, on Christmas Eve morning, I made the final move. I emailed Jason. Short and polite. Jason, I won't be attending Christmas. I respect your wishes. Also, starting next year, I'll be reviewing my financial support plans. I need to focus on my own responsibilities. I could almost picture his face. The fake calm cracking. The panic forming. Because men like Jason don't fear feelings. They fear losing access. And I knew the truth. If I stopped helping, he'd need a new person to blame. And when blame shifts, masks slip. That evening, as I drove to community center with trays of food in my back seat, my phone buzzed. A message from Jason. What do you mean reviewing? Don't start drama. Drama. That word again. He always called truth drama when it threatened him. I didn't reply. I just smiled because the plan was already in motion. And when the doors opened at the community center and strangers walked in smiling through winter air, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Power. Not the power to hurt someone. The power to stand up. And deep down, I knew this part wasn't for them. It was for Alina, because sooner or later, she was going to ask herself, why is my father feeding strangers on Christmas while I'm told to keep him outside? And when she asked that, the lie would start to crack. The community center was warm. Lights hung across the ceiling like little stars. People laughed in small groups like they'd known each other for years, not minutes. Kids ran around chasing each other. Someone started clapping along to an old holiday song, playing quietly in the background. I should have felt happy, and part of me did. But every time I saw a father lift his child, my throat tightened. Because I was picturing Murad. I was picturing his little hands opening gifts. And I wasn't there. Halfway through the evening, Ralph tapped my shoulder. "Cameron, you need to see this." He handed me his phone. It was a photo someone posted online. A woman who came to the dinner had taken a picture of the room. People eating, smiling, warm plates, share joy. The caption said, "A stranger gave us a family tonight. Bless this man." My name wasn't in it, but my face was. Ralph raised an eyebrow. "You've gone public, my friend." My stomach dropped, because I knew who else would see it. Alina. She followed that woman on social media. Small city. Everyone's connected. My hands trembled slightly as I scrolled. The post was already being shared. Comments poured in. This restores my faith in people. What a kind soul. Everyone deserves a seat at the table. Then I saw one comment that made my breath catch. A profile picture of Jason's cousin. Wait, isn't that Alina's dad? Why isn't he with them? I felt my pulse jump, because now the question was out there. And once people start asking questions, lies don't sit comfortably anymore. I looked around the room. People smiling. People grateful. And I realized something painful but true. I wasn't useless. I wasn't outside people. I was still someone who mattered. Late that night, after the event ended, I cleaned up alone. Chairs scraping. Trash bags rustling. The quiet after joy always feels heavier. My phone buzzed again. A message from Alina. Just one line. "Where are you?" I stared at it. It wasn't Merry Christmas. It wasn't I'm sorry. But it wasn't cold either. It was confused. I replied carefully. "I hosted a dinner for people who didn't have family to sit with. I'm home now." Minutes passed. Then 3 dots appeared. Then her next message came. "Jason said you were doing it to make us look bad." There it was. The poison. I took a slow breath. My hands wanted to type 1,000 angry words. But I didn't. I wrote. I did it because I didn't want to spend Christmas alone. And because some people needed a warm place. That's all. Then I added, "I'm not here to fight you. Alina, I'm here when you're ready." Silence. No reply. But the fact she reached out at all told me something. The lie was shaking. And Jason could feel it. Because at 2:13 a.m., another message came. This time from an unknown number. "Stop contacting her. You're not welcome." I didn't need to guess who it was. Jason. I stared at the screen, anger rising. But underneath, it was something sharper. Relief. Because a man who is confident in his story doesn't send messages like that at 2 a.m. A man who is confident doesn't panic. Jason was panicking. And if he was panicking, it meant Alina's heart was pulling in my direction again. But the real crack, the one that would split everything open, was still coming. Because the next morning, I got a call that made my whole body go cold. It was the bank. And the woman on the line said, "Mr. Cameron, we noticed suspicious activity connected to the account you manage. We need to confirm a few things." Suspicious activity. Connected to the account. The one Jason blamed me for. I swallowed hard and asked, "What kind of activity?" And she answered, "An attempt was made to move the remaining balance today, about an hour ago." My heart stopped, because if someone was trying to drain the account on Christmas Day, then Jason wasn't just lying. He was rushing. And when people rush, they make mistakes. I drove to the bank so fast, I barely remember the roads. My mind kept replaying Alina's words. Jason said you were doing it to make us look bad. No, Jason was doing everything to make me look bad. And now, he was trying to empty the last of the money before the truth caught him. At the bank, the manager took me into a small office. She turned her screen toward me. "The transfer attempt was blocked," she said, "but we traced the device and location used to authorize it." She pointed at the details. "An address. Not mine. Alina's." My stomach dropped. Then the manager added, carefully, "It was attempted using Alina's login again, but the device isn't the one she normally uses." My hands clenched. So someone had access to her credentials. Someone in her house. Someone sleeping next to her. I left the bank with printed documents and one clear thought. If I went to Alina now and said, "Jason did it," she might still defend him. But if I let Jason walk into his own trap, he'd expose himself. So I called Alina. She answered on the third ring, voice tight. "Dad." Just hearing her say that word again almost broke me. I kept my voice steady. "Alina, I need you to do something for me. Not for a fight. Not for drama. For clarity." She hesitated. "What?" "Ask Jason to show you his phone. Right now. And check his banking apps and messages. Tell him the bank called about the account." Silence. Then she whispered, "Why would I do that?" "Because you're drowning," I wanted to say. "Because you're being played." Instead, I said softly, "Because the truth doesn't fear being checked." I heard her breathing change, like fear was waking up inside her. Then, faintly in the background, I heard Jason's voice. "What's going on?" Alina covered the phone. "Dad, I can't." Jason's voice got louder. "Who are you talking to?" I spoke quickly. "Alina, listen to me. If everything is clean, nothing changes. But if it isn't, you need to know." Then I heard Jason, sharp, "Hang up." Alina's voice shook. "Jason, wait." The line went dead. My heart pounded. But I didn't move. I didn't rush over. I didn't show up at their door. Because I knew what was happening inside that house. Jason was cornered, and cornered people reveal themselves. 20 minutes later, my phone rang again. Alina's name. I answered instantly. "Alina?" She was crying, not soft crying. The kind where someone is trying to breathe, but keeps failing. "Dad," she choked out. He won't show me his phone." My eyes closed. Pain and relief hit at the same time. "Okay," I said gently. "That tells you something." She sobbed. "He's yelling. He says you're manipulating me. He says you're ruining our family." I swallowed hard. "Alina, I didn't ruin anything. I've been silent. I've been patient. I've been steady. Ask yourself this. If he's innocent, why is he afraid?" Then I heard another voice, Jason, furious, close to the phone. "You're poisoning her. You're obsessed. You're—" Alina screamed, "Stop." The sound of her shouting made my chest ache, because I heard a woman finally fighting for her own mind. Then her voice came back, shaking but clear. "Dad, I found something." My breath caught. "What did you find?" She sniffed, wiped her tears, and said words I will never forget. "There are messages from his friend. They're talking about the account. They're laughing about how easy it was because I trusted him." My hand flew to my mouth. She continued, voice breaking again. "And he told his mother. He told her you were the perfect scapegoat." His words, Dad. Perfect scapegoat. For a second, the world went quiet. Then anger rose in me like fire. But I kept my tone low. "Alina, are you safe?" She swallowed. I locked myself in the bedroom with Murad. Jason is outside the door yelling. My whole body tensed. "Call the police if you need to." She whispered, "I don't want that." I understood. She was still mourning the life she thought she had. So I said, "Listen to me. You don't have to decide everything tonight, but you do have to protect yourself and your son." Then I told her the truth, calm and simple. "I have the bank statements. I have the records. I never took a single thing from you. I kept that money for you like I promised." She cried harder. "I'm so sorry." And right then, the regret finally arrived. Not for me, for her. Because she realized she didn't just uninvite a father from Christmas. She almost threw away the one person who never lied to her. But the story still had one last moment left. Because the next words she said were the ones that made my heart crack open. "Dad, can I come home?" When Alina and Murad arrived at my house, it was past midnight. The street was quiet, snow falling softly like the world was trying to be gentle. I opened the door before she even knocked. She stood there with red eyes and trembling hands, holding Murad close. For a second, she looked like she did when she was a teenager, scared, stubborn, trying not to fall apart. And then she whispered, "I don't deserve you." That sentence hit me harder than any insult, because it wasn't anger. It was shame, the kind that sits in the stomach and won't leave. I stepped aside and said, "Come in." She walked inside slowly, like she expected me to slam the door in her face. But I didn't. I helped her take Murad's coat off. I warmed milk. I tucked him into the small bed I kept ready just in case, because a father never stops preparing for his child. Then Alina and I sat in the living room. The Christmas tree lights blinked softly, reflecting in her tears. She couldn't look at me. She just kept repeating, "I believe him. I believed him." I didn't interrupt, because sometimes guilt needs space to speak. Finally, she looked up and asked, "Why didn't you fight me? Why didn't you show up and force the truth?" I exhaled slowly, because if I forced it, you would have felt trapped, and Jason would have used that. I wanted you to choose truth with your own eyes. She nodded, swallowing hard. When I saw that post, the dinner, I felt sick, not because you made us look bad, but because I realized you were still being a father even after I pushed you away. She covered her face and sobbed. "I uninvited you from Christmas, Dad. I uninvited my own father." I reached across the table and placed my hand near hers, not grabbing, not demanding, just there. "Alina," I said softly, "regret is painful, but it's also proof you still have a heart." The next weeks weren't easy. Jason didn't disappear quietly. He sent messages, then threats, then fake apologies. His mother tried calling, crying, saying, "Families shouldn't fall apart." But families fall apart when someone uses love like a leash. Alina filed for separation. She met with the bank. She changed passwords. She started rebuilding her life one honest step at a time. And me? I did what I needed to do too. I stopped giving money blindly. I set boundaries. I made sure any support went directly toward Alina and Murad's safety and stability, not into Jason's hands. That was my justice. Not shouting. Not revenge that destroys everyone. Just consequences. Just clarity. One night, weeks later, Alina stood by my kitchen sink washing dishes. She looked calmer, stronger. She said quietly, "Jason told me you were controlling, but he was the one controlling me." I nodded. That's how it works sometimes. The person with the loudest accusations is often hiding the biggest truth. She stared at the water running and whispered, "I can't stop thinking about Christmas, about how I told you not to come." I leaned against the counter and said, "You can't undo it, but you can learn from it." She turned to me. "What's the lesson?" I looked at her, my daughter grown hurt, still here, and I spoke from the deepest place in my chest. Don't let someone else rewrite the story of the people who loved you first. And if someone tries to isolate you from the ones who care, ask yourself why. She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes again, but different this time. Not hopeless tears. Healing tears. That Christmas, I didn't get the dinner I expected. I didn't get the perfect family photo. But I got something else. I got my daughter back. And I learned something too. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's refusing to become bitter, while you let the truth do what it always does. It shows up, it stands tall, and it leaves regret sitting right where the lie used to be.